So welcome back to Street Switch Photography. Why would Keir Starmer drop a bomb on President Trump? Let's run the intro and find out. So why would Keir Starmer shit on Donald Trump, now threatening to stop giving him certain information about drug lords and cartel in America? Intelligence, in other words. Now, I can't imagine why that would be. Would it be anything to do with the BBC, for instance? Yes, that's what I think it would be. This is LBC. This is a liberal channel. They're a lefty channel, but I thought I'd use this to get my point across. Let's listen to what they say on here.
Ask whether British soldiers should be exempted from human
from global.
Luke Littler
straight into an advert. Great stuff.
Where's Dad? He's off playing the new Call of Duty Black Ops 7.
So we have got the live chat active at the moment. So if you want to leave a comment or just say hello, feel free to actually do so. Let me just get past this advert.
Am I good or what?
Global's newsroom for LBC. I'm Tim Humphrey.
5% higher than predicted. Wage growth has slowed. Money is pouring out of the UK stock market. Around £7.4 billion has been withdrawn
since
the early summer, and £3.6 billion last month alone. Business confidence is at a new low. In the housing market country, Labour sometimes says it wants to be a more radical government. Fine. The budget? Chuck it. I began today with Michael Gove, the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, now editor of The Spectator. Did he think the economic consequences of budgets generally meant...
Could you get two more people that just dribble so much, like both look like they've had some sort of horrific stroke or something? I mean...
that we should now ditch them?
Yes, I think it's a pantomime, and while I wouldn't want to get rid of our pantomime season overall, I think this is one performance that we can definitely do without. If the Falklands were invaded tomorrow, we wouldn't wait months before we responded. When you're facing economic bad news of this kind, then...
I think right now, if I were someone involved in the BBC, I want to go back and look at all of the documentaries we've done. What is our name on? Attempt to blacken and damage a president of the United States.
Earlier on in the show, Michael Gove called that preposterous.
Trump
may simply be enjoying causing a quiver of fear to an organisation he sees as an enemy of his, but then again, he might mean it.
I mean, Trump could literally take down the BBC single-handedly if he wanted to, but what he's basically turned around and said, if he doesn't receive an apology by Friday, what he'll be doing is suing them for £1 trillion. Now, Keir Starmer is literally filling his pants, or his wife's pantyhose, one or the other, and crapping himself because he's worried the BBC are going to go down, because he controls the BBC. He tells the BBC what footage to capture and what footage to use, and to use it all for the far-right narrative and everything else. And now it's happening. He's turned around and basically said, well, Trump, because you're doing that, I'm not going to give you intel on the cartels and everything else, and all this information will break our special relationship that we have. What a complete and utter idiot. This bloke really is a complete and utter moron, isn't he? Let's be honest about this. The bloke is just unbelievably moronic.
Even if the BBC won its case, the legal costs would be astronomical, and the world will be watching. Probably a grovelling public apology is sensible, because otherwise, how can the corporation shoulder the risk?
They can't give a public apology because they're all narcissists. They're even denying that they lied to the British public after they paid the TV licence and that they're a paedophile harbouring network. You know, I mean, what else? If you wanted to make an already absolutely stinking situation stink even more, that's basically what Keir Starmer's done. He seems to have this uncanny ability to make already really bad situations 10 times worse. He's got no people skills whatsoever. He is completely out of touch with the British people, the British public.
and the costs involved.
And that's
Would
dangerous.
the government step in, using taxpayers' money to back the public service broadcaster after that misleading edit? I can't see that being very popular.
It wasn't just one misleading edit, was it, though, LBC? It wasn't just one. It's been going on for nearly 10 years. The BBC are a far-left ideology, along with the government. We all know that now. We are not stupid. You can sit there with your half-stroke face and everything else, dribbling all over your microphone and talking shit for LBC. No one's going to believe you. Not one single person. Only the great brainwashed and the great unwashed. But you can't teach thick.
Huge problem for the BBC here,
or
but also
inbred.
For the government and the country. Let's talk now to Donald Trump's former National Security Advisor, Katie McFarland. Katie, good to have you back on the show. Donald Trump, as we both know, has used the threat of legal action in all sorts of ways during the course of his career and as president. He doesn't always follow through. Do you think this is, as it were, a kind of verbal cudgel being waved at the BBC, or do you think he means to go through with this?
I think he needs to go through with it. As president, prior to being president, as president, he has launched a number of these lawsuits against media organizations in the United States, and he's won every single one of them. In some cases, it was financial. In other cases, it was an apology. In some cases, it was financial, but he had the money directed at charities. So in every single case, he's won. And the cases that he's won are far less egregious than what the BBC has done. You can't say that it was just an accident or it was a mistake or somebody.
They've tried saying that, haven't they? We're totally non-biased. That's what the BBC are trying to say. Yeah, it's there for everybody to see that they're nothing but lying arseholes who hold pensioners and people that can't afford the TV licence hostage. Basically, tell you if you don't pay your TV licence, you could get up to a £2,000 fine, and people actually believe that. If you do not watch the BBC at all, you don't watch it. You don't watch live TV as it's being recorded or as it's being produced or anything like that. I just literally watch YouTube. You don't have to pay a TV licence. And there is absolutely nothing the BBC can do about it. They'll send out their red letters. They'll send out their little cronies. Let's look at the history of them. They used to tell us they've got vans going around with little dishes on top, and they can tell you exactly whereabouts in the house your TV is and what you are watching. That was a lie. That was a lie, now proven. And then they started turning around and saying, well, all right, then we don't need these vans. All we need is a list. Well, keep your in list, because I don't watch the BBC. They're disgusting. They've harbored more paedophiles than Christ, than the Catholic Church. There you go.
Hit the wrong button. This was a deliberate editing and splicing of a tape with the intention of making Donald Trump look like he was trying to bring down the Constitution and the government of the United States.
Now, the reason that Keir Starmer is so worried about this is because the BBC is probably the biggest card he's got towards mainstream media. And what he can tell them to push out, he can put gagging orders on things. He can tell them not to show certain material. He can tell them to put it this way, that way, to make it look like that Trump was doing what he was doing to try and cause a fight or cause harm or cause hate, which was totally untrue because somebody got hold of the edit and proved their point. And that is what this government do to each and every single individual that vote for them, because these people are brainwashed. There is no debating with them. We've proved that. There is no debate. There's the odd one, but they're a very rare breed. You cannot debate a lefty. It's as plain and as simple as that, and we know that now, because these lefties tend to be very narcissistic, very self-centered, very me, all of the time.
So there's nothing accidental about this, and I think what's even worse is the BBC is paid for by the British people. So in effect, this is an attack on the American people, a duly elected president, and it was a constructed element by the BBC, and I don't think enough has been done in the part of the BBC and the people that they've relieved. There've got to be an awful lot more people who are involved in this. Who spliced the tapes? Who gave the order to do it? Whose decision was it to not review it or to review it and let it go? So I think there's so many unanswered questions.
Let's try and put ourselves, nonetheless, in the position of somebody in the BBC who's been tasked to respond to this. As I said just now, I would have thought a grovelling public apology may be the first place to go.
I think personally it's the end of the BBC. When you've got mainstream media receiving less views than somebody like 2CTV, who is totally independent, that tells you it's over and that the British public have woke up to what's happening to this country. Now, when a country wakes up to what it is that's happening, you're going to get pushback. And that's what's happening. There's something that happens every so many years in quite a few countries, actually. And I call it the straightener. The people know that that is their country and they come and take their country back and put it back to what it was before, because there was nothing wrong with it. There's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As a wise man, used to say, basically, if you go to bed with an itchy bum, you'll wake up with a smelly finger.
But beyond that, what do you think they should be doing?
I think I should be getting through this Boss advert. Good advert, this.
The new boss, the scent.
For him and for her.
And for her.
They should be looking, well, there's a bigger problem of not just institutional bias. This is not just bias. This was taking an active role of disinformation. This is the kind of thing that, Nazi Germany level. This is not.
It's what happens in Russia. It's what happens in North Korea. And that is basically what Starmer would love to happen to this country. We control the media, we control the people, we've got digital ID. He already controls the media, and once you've got that digital ID in place, pop, he's got everything he needs. The Fabian Society have got their way. We'll have a social credit scoring system, which basically means if you say anything bad against the government, you won't be able to buy any dinner tonight. They'll stop your money. Now, just recently, there's been a lot of controversy around benefits and things like that have been handed out, and they basically give people money for the heating bills and stuff like that. Now, last year when it happened, the money for the heating bills was given in the form of where you go to the post office and you draw it. I believe it was some sort of like a gyro or something, like a digital gyro or something like that, and they got the money for it. Now, not everybody spent their money on the heating, on the bills that they were supposed to spend them on. So this year, they've clamped it down, so all you can do is spend it on that. Now, I think this is another step towards digital ID and digital cashless systems, if you want to put it like that. It's going to be ending up a communist country. We have turned into a no free speech, no freedom of expression, communist Stasi country.
What allies do to each other. So I think you got to look inside and make your own decision. But I think Donald Trump is very serious about this, and he ought to be.
Let me put to you, as you were, the BBC internal defence of this. This is not coming from me, this is coming from them. They say,
if you watch my last video, you'll see the internal defence. There's been two people quit. I think the Director General and the leader of the news columns and everything else, BBC News, about how biased they've been towards not just LGBTQ, not just Gaza and Palestine. They've been extremely anti-Semitic. They've now basically tried to blame, they actually tried to blame GB News, which is ridiculous. And they're running out of answers very fast. And now Starmer's basically just gone and made an absolutely horrific situation. Somehow, this bloke has actually managed to make it even worse. You'd have thought there'd have been somebody there at number 10 who'd have just turned around to Starmer and just say, look, Starmer, seriously, right, just listen to me for 1 second and then take action after. Just listen to me for a second. If you get your bottom lip like that and your top lip like that and bite down like that, you're capable of shutting the fuck up. And to me, that doesn't make sense how anybody could have let this bloke open his mouth about this. I mean, America are probably the only ally that we've got that's of any value at the moment and that can protect this country should anything happen with Russia. So he turns around and basically breaks bonds with the only people that can protect us. This bloke may have been a top lawyer, but he's a fucking tool, isn't he? Let's be honest. The bloke is an absolute, complete and utter idiot, along with Lammy, David Lammy. It really doesn't make sense, and they're in control of this country for another 2.5, 3 years. This is going to get very interesting.
In the end, Donald Trump did make a belligerent speech that day. In the end, the Proud Boys did march on the Capitol. In the end, Congress decided...
Yeah, they did, but he didn't say what the BBC are saying he said. It was nothing to do with him, with whatever the Proud Boys or whatever they're called marched or...
That his behaviour had been very bad that day, and therefore they weren't really misleading the public about the fundamental truth of the day.
Yes, they were. They were misleading the public. There's no other way of putting it. They see the LBC, the Liberal Broadcasting Channel, is the LBC. They're just a bunch of idiot liberals. And this guy is well, just look at him. You wouldn't let him be hanging around a kid's playground, would you? Let's be honest.
Wrong, completely wrong. If you go back and look at the two speeches President Trump made about an hour apart, in one, he said, march peacefully. He used the word peacefully. That was nowhere in it. And the way...
You see, they've done the same to Tommy Robinson. They've done the same to him. And then Tommy Robinson decided, well, you know what? I'm going to tear you a new one. So he did. He basically proved that Panorama was a lying bunch of crap because he found out what they were going to do. It's happened so many times now. Now we know that the BBC and all these mainstream medias have been lying to us, brainwashing us. The only difference is the people that aren't capable, the lefties in other words, that aren't capable of critical thinking have been brainwashed. And they are a lost cause.
The BBC spliced two completely different speeches, different places, an hour apart, to make it look like Donald Trump was leading an insurrection of people marching on the United States Capitol. I mean, it's hard to think of how serious this is compared to other things that have happened with fake news and, people spinning things one way or another. This was not a spin. This was a deliberate attempt to blacken and damage a president of the United States, and done in such a deliberate way that it's hard to see who comes out of this with any kind of glory other than the American people who are going to stand up for their rights through the president of the United States.
Trump bringing this case.
Luke Littler is
another bloody advert.
Dan, I have to say...
I've noticed that YouTube are getting really, really bad for these adverts. They're getting closer together and longer.
Where's Dan?
Trying to get as much money out of people.
Black Ops 7.
The future is going to be Rumble. I think even YouTube will fall.
I'm his replacer. Oh, look at this. Man throws dart, hits board.
I can't click past it.
Am I good or what?
Case, Nima Rahmani, the Californian attorney with the West Coast trial lawyers and former...
California. Now, I'm guessing, and this is a guess, I could be wrong, I'm guessing this bloke's a lefty, but let's find out. I don't know. I've never personally heard of him, but when he said California...
A federal prosecutor. Nima, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Can I ask, first of all, there's been a great debate about whether President Trump would bring the case in Britain, which seems to be harder for him, or, for instance, in Florida. What would be the advantages for Trump of bringing the case in the States?
There's two advantages for bringing the case in the United States, Andrew. The first is the statute of limitations hasn't run. This Panorama episode was aired in October 2024. And we know in the UK, there's a 1-year statute on defamation. So those claims have long since run. Now in Florida, it's a 2-year statute. So we're still within the window. And of course, it's a more favorable venue, a hometown advantage. Of course, Mar-a-Lago is there, and
from a regular hotel to asylum accommodation was a flagrant and persistent abuse of planning controls by the hotel owners, arguing
so we're up to the Epping Hotel, and I've already done a video on this. But what do you think? Do you think Keir Starmer's absolutely filling his underwear, or I think he wears his wife's underwear, but I think he's filling someone's underwear. Keir Starmer shit his missus' pants. But yeah, I think he's crapping it. Absolutely crapping it because of what Trump's doing. And the last thing he should have done is basically turn around and say, let's cut ties with Trump. What a twat. Let's be honest. The bloke is an idiot. This has been Street Switch Photography. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Go and hit the notification bell. and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Good evening for now. Roll the outro.
And I hope you let me in, yeah.